Never thought that I would sit down like this and actually tell the world my story, which I have a feeling that people would go, oh my God, after you hear my story. Basically, like, how did you live through that? I'm kind of doing this on a whim because I figure at 62 years old, I really have nothing left to aspire for, to shoot for, um, or anything really. As a matter of fact, I think I may have. I don't think I have a whole lot longer to live, and you'll probably understand that when I explain um, what's really going on with me. I was born in '63. I'm not going to make this real long, maybe 15 minutes, but I'm going to just throw down some life events that have happened to me in the last 62 years. I was born out in San Diego in 1963. Mother was an alcoholic, and dad was a musician. My dad actually raised us after our alcoholic mother left when I was about 3. And so she disappeared when I was 3 years old. I was raised down in the slummy area of Ocean Beach in California, where we didn't really have any money. There was nothing really. There's a lot of drug activity within the family and stuff. And so I went to a private school as a kid. Um, Nothing bad happened there. Everything was pretty cool, all the way up till I got 17. And at 17, I had already become a pretty good surfer. So that was kind of my outlet. I love to surf. I love the beach. I love hanging on the beach, hanging with my friends, this, that, and the other. So everything kind of changed when I hit about 17. That's when the real shit show started. In 1980, when I was 17 years old, my dad jumped off a 200-foot bridge and killed himself. Um, it was the Coronado Bay Bridge in San Diego. I'm sure a lot of people are familiar with it. But he died July 15th, 1980. And so I had a stepmother at that time, since I had no real mother. And my stepmother basically kicked me out 2 weeks after he died. Says, go leave, fend for yourself in the world, because I'm gone. And so she took his property, and then I ended up struggling, working as a cook at SeaWorld. And then I finally, in 1981, February of 81, I went in the Marine Corps. I was pretty much at my wit's end. I couldn't keep it together anymore. And I just said screw it, and I signed up in the Marine Corps at 17. And that went pretty good. First couple of years, I did get in some trouble with the girl in my room, and then I got in some trouble there. But all in all, my military service went okay. Spent 4 years, 6 years total, and then I came out and I went back to work, working as a busboy for a restaurant. And during that time, I also went back in the Navy Reserves and did 2 more years in the Navy Reserves. So I finished up that. Everything seemed all right. And then probably in 1990, when I was about 28 years old, I met a woman. She kind of took me in. I was kind of like a stray dog at that point. Didn't really have anywhere to be or anywhere to go. And everything was fine for about 6 months. And then she, on a rampage one night, attacked me with a pair of scissors and cut me up pretty bad. So basically, I ended up going to jail over that for about a week. But then they dropped the charges when they realized that she was the one that attacked me. So that wasn't too bad. I mean, I kind of made it through all that all right. Ended up going back to San Diego. Left where I was, went back to San Diego, hooked up with some friends of mine, and on the way back, I was driving through New Mexico. I let a guy kind of come along with me in my car driving back out to California, and I realized once we were driving that there was a guy that had been at this motel we were at that basically this guy that I was letting in my car shot him up with heroin, and the guy died. He was a maintenance guy at this place we were staying at. So getting back to San Diego, the guy just wanted to drink, party, and he had no money. I had a few dollars, not a whole lot of money. But long story short on that, I ditched him out at the beach and then took off and went back and hooked up with my friends. So that wasn't really that bad. I ended up back in Ocean Beach doing a lot of working and stuff, mostly like labor type work. But the whole time, everything was kind of back and forth, kind of struggling and stuff. And finally, I figured at 35, I've been through enough. A lot of drunken brawls. My friends, a lot of them got into fights and stuff. I got into fights with them, with other people and stuff that we knew. But finally, I said enough of this crap. So I went back. I went to school. I was working as a laborer, and I got opportunity to go to electrical school. So I get in. I finish up the testing and everything. I get into the schooling, and by 35 years old, I'm working hard. I'm busting my ass. I'm digging ditches. I'm out there, running conduit all day, setting pole cans, working under buildings, all kinds of stuff. And then after 4 years, I had my electrical certification. And by this time, I also had a young son. I'd been with the same girl for probably 5 years at that point. And then in 2005, I sold the house that we bought together. I said, we're going to sell it. And I sold the house, and we packed it up. Packed up a 1998 Camaro. This is in 2005. Packed up my Camaro. Said, well, we're going to take off. Sold the house and everything. We're going to take off and go out in North Carolina where I was in the Marines. So we get in, I get in the car. I get in this Camaro, and I start driving across country by myself. And they're going to take a flight. They're going to fly out. So I ended up driving across country in my Camaro, stopping in different places, Tennessee, just hotels and stuff. And I had made a lot of money off my house. I mean, well, for me it was anyway, $40,000. So what I ended up doing was, I'd stop by a few places, drink a few beers here and there. And I'd always had kind of a problem with drinking alcohol because I'm Irish. I was kind of raised in a pretty shady environment to begin with. So naturally, plus I was in the Marines, naturally I'm going to probably have a problem with, substance abuse and stuff, which I ended up having. But on this particular drive across country coming out to North Carolina, I wasn't feeling too well. I was feeling kind of weak, queasy, and just overall just not feeling good at all. Headaches, real bad headaches, and just tired all the time. So I figured I was just exhausted, But so I got to North Carolina, rented a place, got a place and everything, and and I still kept feeling sick, and it was getting worse. So I was sweating at night, real bad, horrible sweats. Headaches were just unbelievably bad, just excruciating headaches. And after about 4 months, I had been to the doctor. The doctor thought it was pneumonia, gave me some pills for it. And so what ends up happening is after about 4 or 5 months, I collapsed. I was in the apartment. I just collapsed. And next thing you know, I'm waking up in the hospital in Chapel Hill, North Carolina. I had no idea what really had happened. I mean, I'd been really sick, but had no idea what had happened. But I was just on death's door by the time I got there. So, I had worked so hard to get to a certain point in life, especially with the electrical career. And then I was finally making decent money. So my idea was to come out to North Carolina and get a job working as an electrician. But I ended up coming out here, and after 6 months, I was in the hospital. So basically, I was diagnosed with meningitis. And it had gotten so bad that when I arrived, they basically said I had a 50-50 chance of making it the next 2 days of surviving. And so what ended up happening is I got about 3 blood transfusions, a couple spinal taps. I was anemic. They put me on a thing called fluconazole. Fluconazole kind of got rid of the infection and stuff. But the problem was that the damage to my frontal lobes had caused me some cognitive impairments. So basically what that means is when somebody says something to me, it'll take me a while to process what they just told me. And some of the other fun things that goes along with the post-meningitis is you'll end up with like crazy anxiety, thinking like the whole world's falling apart. Which I never experienced that before in my life. I used to work underneath buildings all day and working on duct detectors. I didn't care if it was, I was in a rat infested duct work, or under a building or whatever. But now, in the last 20 years since this happened, it's insane the amount of issues that you go through with having meningitis. So I guess in a sense, this is like a kind of a cautionary tale. I mean, I lived pretty crazy in my younger years. Partied hard, worked hard, partied hard, worked hard. But then in the end, I was left with something that's, I guess somebody would say it's like I'm half the man I used to be. And in a sense, that's kind of what happened to me. And I will say that going back to my father's suicide, my dad had an injury, and the injury was to his foot from being a runner. He ran long-distance races, and he pinched a nerve. And I have to say that for the longest time, with my dad dying at 43 years old, from taken by his own hand by jumping off the bridge, is that when I went through my own health crisis with the meningitis, I realized that some of the things that people go through can just be too unbearable, where you can't function. You don't know how to function. And I've always kind of looked at it like, well, at least I'm still alive. I don't work anymore. I haven't worked in years now, but I will say that, my story as far as growing up in a dysfunctional family, growing up in a poor family, definitely did have was kind of a compass as to where my life would end up eventually down the road, as an adult. And I think that's what happens in a lot of families is that's why they stress education, because it'll number one, it'll take you out of poverty, And number two, it'll give you the self-esteem you need to make it in a competitive world. So that would be my story. There's other parts of it that I have omitted because it's just pretty much more of the same. There was a lot of abuse as a child. We went through a lot of abuse, physical, mental abuse, mostly from a stepmother, which I think that definitely has an impact on people later in life. Even if the person's dead, they could still have an emotional, you know, they could still have emotional scars just from that person that screwed them over years, years or decades ago. So that's a short story on my life. Pretty much, I didn't really want to put a whole lot more into it because it's already been 16 minutes, and don't really want to go any farther than that. But if you got a story like that, let me know. Like some things that might have happened to you as a kid, or happened, as an adult, things that have happened to you, or friends, or family, or whatever. But all right, thanks for watching my story.